Testing, 1, 2. How are y'all doing today? Woo! I am so excited to have this honor and privilege of doing what I'm going to do right now. And let me tell you why. My name is John Lujan, and I'm the state representative for District 118. This is in the middle of my district. Also, just for a little history, I'm the first Republican ever elected to this seat in the history of Texas. Thanks to you. Thank you. And the other thing I want to say, I see a lot of Southsiders here, so thank you for being here. But I also see people from, when I go to rallies on the north side, you guys over there, now you're in my hometown right here, South Bexar County. I love that. But you know what? My privilege and honor is introducing the man of honor today. I've got to know the governor, and I got to know that his passions for having safe streets in Texas, his passion of being a proud Texan, proud of our state, proud of who we are. Man, I've seen the hurt he has for the fentanyl that's just run loose in our country, and he wants to stop those things. And I've seen his support for law enforcement, for the men and women in uniform. I've seen that firsthand, so I am proud to serve with the governor. I'm proud to be part of the team to keep Texas red and to keep the values that we need. Not only am I going to introduce the governor, but I'm also thankful that his wife changed her schedule around just to be here. The First Lady, Cecilia Abbott, is a native San Antonioan, so we're proud, thankful to have her here today also. So I will shut up because I know you didn't come to see me, but I'm thankful to be here, and I'm going to introduce to you the great governor for the great state of Texas, Governor Greg Abbott. You got it, Governor. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Howdy, San Antonio. Get up for John Lujan. So as he told you, he is the first Republican elected to the House seat where we are tonight. I have one ask of you. Make sure that you vote to send John Lujan back to the Texas House of Representatives. Let me tell you something, though. We're going to do far more than just re-elect John Lujan. Republicans are going to win up and down the ballot this election cycle. One thing I can tell you is we're going to be adding more members who are Republican to the United States Congress, and we are going to fire Nancy Pelosi. I'll tell you two more things. One, we are going to win tomorrow night. And then after that, we are going to beat Beto and keep Texas red. So how do I know all this stuff? I know all of this stuff because we're going to do what's so very simple. We are going to contrast the values of the Republican Party versus the values of the Democrat Party. And it's never been easier than before now because they're no longer Democrats. They're no longer liberals or progressives. They are socialists, and we will not allow the socialists to take over our state. Now, this state is great, but I got to tell you that my favorite part of this state is the woman standing right near the stage of me, the woman who I asked to marry me on Valentine's Day on the Riverwalk in San Antonio, Texas, back in 1981. My wife, the fabulous First Lady of Texas, Cecilia Abbott, right here. She's here with her family. Bill, my father-in-law, good to have you here. Thank you for being here. Clarissa and the entire team. I can't even tell who all we got over here. But we got our San Antonio squad here. And listen, if all I do, candidly, I can tell you this as an aside story. When we first moved into the governor's mansion, my wife said, why don't we have the family over for Thanksgiving? I said, sure. Thinking, like we'd have 10 people or something like that show up. So y'all know. So her family starts showing up. We have more than 250 people showing up. My point is this. I mean, candidly, all I need to do to win is to have my family vote for me, and I am going to win this election. But listen, you need to understand this contrast so that you can go about and tell your friends, your neighbors, your co-workers, people who live in your neighborhood exactly why you're going to be voting for Greg Abbott. Number one, Texas is number one in the United States as the best state for business and for jobs. Every year that I've been governor, Texas has been ranked the number one state to do business in, the number one state for economic development. And Texas is also the number one state in the United States as the best state to start a small business. Texas is great for business. Because of our economic expansion, Texas now has the 9th largest economy in the entire world. But most importantly, because of what's going on economically, more Texans have a job than ever before in the history of our great state. Now, this is important because if you contrast it to what the Democrats are pushing, they're pushing the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal that would destroy all of the high-paying energy sector jobs. By the way, the energy sector jobs that have made America energy independent, and I am running for re-election to ensure we protect those high-paying energy jobs in the Lone Star State. But listen, candidly, if you see this radical leftist ideology and you see what they're trying to achieve through it, it's far more insidious than just putting people out of work. They are actually using their radical leftist ideology to go into our classrooms and our schools and not educate our children, but to indoctrinate our children. And that is wrong. You know, candidly, this is something I thought was happening maybe in California or New York, but not in Texas, until concerned parents brought to me textbooks showing what was being taught in elementary schools in Texas, and I could not believe it. And so we went to work, and we passed a law during the last regular session and in a special session that banned the use or teaching of critical race theory in every subject, in every grade, in every public school in the state of Texas. And Texas now has the strongest ban on critical race theory of any state in the United States of America. But listen, I want you to understand that's not intended to be a reflection of what my feeling is about public education. Listen, I went to public schools here in the state of Texas my entire life. My wife is a former teacher. Her mother was a school teacher in public schools here in the San Antonio area. And I want you to know this. No governor has provided more resources to public education than I have. But all that said, at the end of the day, we need to understand this. And that is, there is no government program that can replace the role that parents play in the education of our children. And that is exactly why I am running for re-election to promote a parental bill of rights that restores parents as the primary decision maker for their child's education and health care. Listen, as bad and dangerous as what they are doing to our school children, it's even more dangerous what they're doing in our communities. If you look at some of the most disastrous sites that you see on news at night, you see these stories about what's happening in places like Los Angeles and San Francisco where they do this smash and grab operations that decimate cities. You see what goes on in Portland and Seattle and New York and Chicago, these treacherously dangerous cities, and you see one thing consistent with all those cities, and that is a disrespect and a diminishment of law enforcement. Sometimes it comes to actually defunding law enforcement. And, you know, I thought that would be something that we would never have happen in Texas because, of course, in Texas we support our law enforcement officers. And then in Texas, there's always one city. Always one city. And you know who I'm talking about. The city of Austin. The city of Austin defunded their law enforcement by more than $100 million. And what happened was extremely predictable. last year, the city of Austin saw the highest number of murders ever. Well, let me tell you something. When I saw that happen, I worked with my members in the legislature to make sure that we, on our watch, would not have law enforcement defunded, because in Texas, we support our law enforcement officers, period. So I passed a law and signed a law that would defund any city that defunds law enforcement. And the greatest fun that I had, so after a governor signs the law, it takes about 2 months for it to go into effect. And during the 2 months after I signed that law, it was fun watching the city of Austin scramble to come up with more than $100 million they had to come up with, but they did. And then they funded law enforcement as they are required by Texas law. But as dangerous as it is to defund law enforcement, there's something even far more dangerous that's been achieved by the radical leftists who are destroying our country. And it's the open border policies that have been put in place by Joe Biden and embraced by Beto O'Rourke. And it is extremely dangerous. There's candidly no reason to have it done, because let's go back in time 15 months ago. 15 months ago, we had the lowest number of illegal border crossings in decades, because Donald Trump put into place 4 things. The Remain in Mexico policy, the Title 42 policy, he ended catch and release, and he built a border wall, and that led to the dramatic decrease in people coming across the border. When Joe Biden was elected, he eliminated all 4 of those things, and he opened up the border so much so that he said anybody from anywhere across the entire globe can cross that border and nothing's going to happen to them. And since then, people have come from more than 150 countries across the world, including, interestingly, over the past 2 weeks, 15 people from Russia have been apprehended coming across the border. This is serious and it's dangerous, because it's more than just that. You got drug cartels, you got human traffickers. Let me tell you something about the drug cartels. The drug cartels are bringing across the border this deadly drug, fentanyl. Fentanyl, parents in San Antonio need to know about what's going on, because this is happening in San Antonio. 2 milligrams of fentanyl is a deadly dose. 2 grains of salt is a deadly dose. And Texas law enforcement has seized in the past year enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child in Texas, California, New York, Illinois, and Florida combined. It's deadly and it's dangerous, and Joe Biden is not doing anything about it. The only people who do anything about it is Texas standing up to seize that fentanyl and to secure our border. Because of Biden's open border policies, Texas has stepped up and done more than any state has ever done in the entire history of our country. That includes adding about 10,000 National Guard and DPS officers who are making those arrests and securing our border. As we gather in San Antonio tonight, the men and women who serve at our National Guard are standing watch on our border. Give it up for the Texas National Guard and everything they do to secure our border. And then on top of that, I've done something that no governor has ever done. And Texas has done something no state has ever done. Texas is now building our own border wall to secure our state. I signed the paperwork for this back last June, and it took us only 6 months to have that wall begin to go up. And I'm telling you, that wall is being built faster and at a lower cost than what even President Trump was able to do. And let me tell you why. We're able to do it faster and at a lower cost because President Trump, he had to acquire the land on which it was being built. He had to use eminent domain where he sued the property owner to get it, all that kind of stuff. We don't have to do that. I'll tell you why. We're building wall in part on land that is owned by the state of Texas. Yeah, there we go. Texas land is being used to build the Texas wall. And then on top of that, the facts on the ground have changed since Trump was in office. Under Biden's open border policies, the people who own land on the border itself are so angry, so frustrated about their land being overrun and the chaos and the danger that it's caused They are providing that land to Texas for nothing more than an easement. And so we're putting up panel after panel. It's the exact same contractor, the exact same wall that Trump was using. It's 30 feet high. It's at least as high as the roof in the area that we're in tonight. And we add more and more panels. And then there's this, something you may remember seeing on TV. After Biden took office, you saw these panels and other things laying on the ground that were intended to be building the wall, but were not being used for that. We found a legal way for the Texas to go about getting those materials at no cost. And we were able to get 1,700 of those panels, these 30-foot tall panels, and put them up until Joe Biden finally found out about it. But I'm proud to say that even the Biden wall has now been put up by Texas and is securing our border. But listen, you need to understand that there's far more than just your public safety that's on the ballot this election. Your very freedom is on the ballot this election. When you think about your freedoms, think about the First Amendment. Think about something that I know is dear to the heart of so many people in San Antonio because of the more than 40 years of time that I spent here. The men and women in this room, I know that you love and you care about your relationship with God Almighty and the faith that you hold deep in your heart. So I'm going to remind you along those lines. I'm going to remind you of something you're going to be able to see later on this week because it's an anniversary later on this week about something that I did back when I was Attorney General. When I was Attorney General, there was an atheist who was walking across the Texas Capitol grounds, and as he was walking across the Capitol grounds, he saw an enormous monument that stands more than 10 feet tall. And on that monument is carved into it the Ten Commandments. That atheist asked federal courts to tear down that monument. And I fought back all the way to the United States Supreme Court, and I personally argued the case before the United States Supreme Court defending Texas's right to display the Ten Commandments monument on the Texas Capitol grounds, and we won, and that monument still stands today. And so I find it shocking that Beto O'Rourke has come out and said that he has stood for this idea about eliminating the tax-exempt status of churches that refuse to bow down to the woke left agenda. I will not let that happen in Texas. To the contrary, I signed a law that ensures that no public official at any level will ever be able to close down our churches, denying you the right to go worship God Almighty in the Lone Star State. And what comes after the First Amendment? And what did Beto tell you he's going to do with your Second Amendment rights? So he, believe it or not, he said he's going to come and confiscate your guns. I don't think he met the people of South San Antonio. But you don't have to worry, because I signed 20 laws to protect your Second Amendment rights, including making Texas a constitutional carry state and making Texas a Second Amendment sanctuary state. Look at this sign right here. There it is. We call them the 3 G's of Texas. There you go. Thank you. But listen, let me just close it down with this. I can tell we're in a room tonight of people who are incredibly patriotic. I know there are people in this room tonight, just like so many people who've served in the military in San Antonio from time to time, said we are, I know we're in South San Antonio, we're in Bexar County, but San Antonio has trademarked, of course, Military City, USA, for a very good reason. As I look across the room, I see the hats of different men and women who have worn the uniform in different wars and different battles and served at different times. And you all made a commitment that you would put your life on the line for your country, and you served. And we thank you for your service. Here is what they know, what we all agree with, and that is we know for a fact that America is the greatest nation in the history of the entire world. And as much as some of you love America, candidly, I can tell there's some of you who may even love Texas just a little bit more. What you need to understand is this, and what you need to tell your neighbors is this. There are people on the ballot this election cycle. There are people running for governor this election who do not love America the way that you do, who do not think America and its past is the greatest country in the history of the world, and they want to redesign our future along their vision of their socialistic ideas. Let me tell you something. We tonight here in South San Antonio, we're going to combine together and make sure that those people who want to impose their socialistic ideas are not going to win this election. To the contrary, we're going to work every single day all the way to November the 8th, and we are going to keep Texas the best state and the greatest nation in the history of the entire world. God bless you all, and God bless the great state of Texas.
If you haven't climbed up to Enchanted Rock, drink a cold shiner down in Lippenbach, taking your baby to the river walk. You ain't met my Texas yet. If you haven't floated down the El Frio, heard red dirt music on your radio, eating Coopers down in Llano.